How does the rev share work if I was a producer and I was going to engage in this with a broadcaster? What have you seen as a common practice?
So this is fairly new in the Canadian space in the sense that there have been great things that have been done, but there's not yet, it's not yet a common practice. So what we're seeing is that there's two main ways that the rev share is happening. First off, producers, we're seeing more of this, can come now to the table when they do have a program with a sponsor. So in that case, when the TV show comes with the sponsor, the broadcaster is more inclined to go with the rev sharing. What we've seen with and another scenario completely is that sometimes the producer has no links whatsoever to brands, and they just do the production and the content, and then the broadcaster will come in and put his entire sales team behind it and go find the brand and do the work, the custom work from A to Z and everything. In those cases, most of our TV clients haven't necessarily had any rev share. When it does, however, if you're doing a second screen experience, for example, and your brand integration wants to be really linked to the content and not necessarily to an ad that's playing on TV and you can sync it, like if it's something that's totally linked to the content. For example, you've got a host, it's a talk show type, and you want to advertise her clothing in particular, that's going to need a buy-in from the star and from the producer. So in that case, we're seeing rev share because that's directly linked to a person and to the content of the TV show. But if it's just a syncing to the 30-second spot that's playing between the show and you're linking to merchandising, we haven't seen a lot of rev share with the producer. So it's a model that it's not in the box thing. The model isn't set yet. It's going to be a lot of trial and error for the next 12 to 18 months. But the general knowledge is if you come with a sponsor that's going to invest dollars, you're more likely to get some of the rev share in there.
How do we see this as an opportunity, and where can this go next if I was a producer who's considering in taking up T-commerce?
Well, the goal is to, right now the entire financing model kind of depends on the CMF and a lot of our public funding. The goal with T-commerce is that we can bring in brands and we can bring in ad agencies and we can bring in outside partners to the regular kind of financing that we use and make sure that we kind of diversify where the sources of income are coming and the risk is not just to the public funds, and we're making sure that we can cover kind of our basics. So for the funding, that it brings a plus side for the producers where you can get more interest from the broadcasters when they're not taking the entire risk. And as a matter of content, T-commerce can open a lot of doors for a conversation between ad agencies and content. I think we see it a lot with big brands, and you've got, for example, Red Bull, which is a brand that's become a media company as well. So we've got all of these kind of content companies out there, and there's a competition between content and brand content, and so finding a way of having them cohabitate makes for how can I say this? Makes for less competition in the end.
How soon should the people, such as producers and content creators, be thinking about incorporating this process? Is it 3 months before production, 6 months, a year? What have you seen as a common practice?
So just like when you're thinking about having a new media venture, you need to start ideally thinking about it when you're even pitching the concept to the broadcasters. If you want a truly integrated kind of solution, you need to make sure that you think about it really early on. It's not in the nature of every producer yet, and there are companies out there across Canada that are specialized in this, so you might want to try to find allies that can help you and guide you through the process. If it's not done at the creation, it definitely has to, once the show is sold to the broadcaster and they've committed, you need to right away start the process, because sometimes it can take up to 9 months to create a great solution if you want something super customized and all of that. But normally for a project under 100K, between 3 to 6 months you are able to produce something interesting. So the bigger you want the experience, the more time you need. And we also have to think that brands commit and ad agencies commit their money way in advance. So if you're selling shows and you know that it's for next year, you might want to make sure that you think about the cycles with the ad agencies, and if you as a producer want to do that link directly, you're going to need to be 9 to 12 months in advance, because you want to make sure that they keep money for you for next year. So the earlier the better, but you can do something interesting between 3 to 6 months.